Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into the Ryan Ripken Show, and we apologize again, but this is the downtime for us. Because why? It's spring. There's not a ton of news, but there is enough to talk about in the baseball world and some news and notes that we'll get into. And while it might not feel like spring up here, and we'll talk about that because, Zach, I'm over it. I'm over it. It is getting closer and closer to opening day as spring training continues on down in Florida and Sarasota for the Orioles, out in Arizona, and what's going to be heating up over the next few days. The World Baseball Classic is going to get going here. So a whole lot on that side. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show for our normal shows will be live Monday through Friday. So appreciate your guys' patience. But Zach, happy episode 145 on March 2nd, 2026.
Yeah, it's not that, and it's also not spring. Why is it snowing again? Why is it like we talked about this? I had prepared for it, and I knew it was going to happen, and it's still like it was like 60 degrees this weekend. I wore shorts outside on Saturday, and now it's snowing again. And then it's going to rain, but it's hitting 70 degrees this weekend. We just can't. And one more snow's coming. Like, I wish I could be like, well, it's the final send off, but around like March 15th, March 20th, they're going to give us one more flurry just for the road. But to say I'm over, it's an understatement. Usually around this time of year, I'm like, oh, it's nice, a little snow. It looks pretty, all that. We've gotten too much snow this year. Too much snow this year.
When Jamie said that, actually, you know how I found out the snow was happening today?
Looked outside.
No, well, that's a good guess. But no, it was Jamie said to me, hey, if you haven't, just take a look if there's any to poop a scoop, anything in the backyard before it snows. That's how the conversation for me started. I said, well, the snow, I don't have to worry about that. You mean just go clean up the yard if I missed any poop? I got the poop already.
Yeah.
And no. She goes, no, it's going to snow. And I go, you got to be kidding me. And I love the season, Zach. I love it. I really do. But on March 2nd, after you're right, I'm hanging out short sleeves, shorts on, and I'm just feeling breezy. Now I got to go worry about snow outside, and specifically, the pooper scoop. Yes, we're all taken care of on that side note. But yes, like I'm done with it, Zach.
Yeah,
I want the warm weather.
And you sit there and it feels like we're so close because we're less than a week away from the clocks going forward. So you get like an hour more of daylight. You feel good. It's awesome. Everything. And then now you're like, oh, but it's still snowing. Like winter just can't let us have one. Let us have one.
We're moving closer to longer nights, so that's a positive. We're moving closer to opening day, which everyone loves. And there's a couple other things coming down the pipeline here that we'll tell you guys about, but we appreciate you guys. Thank you. Hit that like and subscribe button. And before we continue into this stream, Zach, we'll go to the other stream, Wapow. And that's courtesy of our friends over at AutoStream Car Care Center. Guys, I know you've been liking those reels on Instagram of me being a great actor, Zach. You can't make those things up. But if you're having car issues with all this weather, go to AutoStream. They have 10 locations around Maryland, $50 off when you just mentioned Ryan Ripken. That's as simple as it is. We appreciate them. They appreciate you. And from that stream back to this stream, Zach, we're on the same page. Boom.
Just like that.
Just like that. Why don't we talk a little bit of baseball news that at least we can discuss?
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to talk all the time about spring training and the results. And we had Brad Brock on last week to talk about, what I've said for a long time, but it's good hearing from him. There's no correlation to whether you're going to have a great year depending on how your spring training goes or a bad year. There's really no correlation. But one thing I am interested in this week, Zach, is who baseball is identifying as the top prospects. So MLB just released their top 100 prospects recently. I know a lot of people in Baltimore, they've heard to hear more about on that side. In fact, we thought it'd be a fun exercise to look at the entire American League East
Yeah.
when it comes to the top prospects in that region.
Yeah. So obviously, MLB Pipeline earlier today, I believe, officially finalized top 100 and top 30 for each team going into the 2026 season. So we want to pull up. Here is the division by top 100 prospects. So this is not the top 30 for every team. This is who in each organization in the AL East is in the top 100. And of course, because it's the AL East, every team has at least 3. 2 teams, the Yankees and Red Sox, have 4 because the division can never get easier. But once again, this is you see a whole array of, range of guys when they'll be up, all of that. But once again, as you look at the list, there is a lot of talent still in the American League East. I mean, 15 guys here. Or 17, right? 6, 10. Yeah, 17 players in the AL East in the top 100. It's going to be – it's always fun in the AL East because here's the thing. We can look at guys like this, and, we talked a little about it before. Obviously, for a guy like Trey Savage, top line prospect for the Blue Jays, and then you look at the other two, and you're like, okay, Parker and Namala, they're projected to arrive in 29, 28. So, we'll be down the line. Ryan, a lot of times we talk to so many people. If you're a contender, have your prospects work for you. These are also guys that could then land at the deadline, a big bat, a big pitcher. So it's not just us sitting here saying, oh, these are the top guys that are going to be in the AL East for the next 10 years. These could also be guys that, end up being, hey, they're traded for a top line guy, for a starter. I would assume the Rays will probably keep their guys because they don't usually trade prospects. But, I mean, you go through, obviously, the Blue Jays with Parker and Namala both being 2 to 3 years away. If they feel like they are maybe a hitter away, if they're a, bullpen piece away come July, don't expect them to be shy about getting rid of one of those guys if it means landing them a frontline guy.
Yeah, I mean, the exercise to look at this, everyone loves to talk about how great their prospects are and how great the talent that you have to come and help the big league team or to be an asset to be traded, right? So all of these teams that we're showcasing here, and even the Rays, I know the Rays of the 5 AL East teams are probably not getting the recognition just because of how much the other teams have invested or where the other teams were last year, specifically looking at the Jays, Yankees, and Red Sox. They made the postseason. And then the Orioles regressed quite a bit last year, obviously for many different reasons, but they were a playoff team in 23 and 24. And on top of it, they did reinvest a lot in this team coming into the 26 season. But the Rays are still a team that they're this engine that just keeps going, even when people think that they're dying out. They've never done that over the last 16 years. The Rays actually, since 2008, if I want to go back, they were in the World Series in 2008 and started in 2010 when I had the stats. They had the third most wins, in baseball over the last 16 years. So can't count them out, but you want to look at who can help teams at this point. And we'll show you the top 10 list for the Orioles prospects in a moment. Yeah. But just looking at this right now, Zach, we'll start up top and we'll go down to the bottom with the Orioles. Trey Savage, to me, you saw him in the World Series, you saw him in the postseason, stud. What's his upside? A number 1 for that Blue Jays staff. That's how he can be, but he really hasn't pitched a lot in the grand scheme of things, but he's going to pitch a lot this upcoming year. When it comes to the Yankees, for Orioles fans, if you watch the opening game on for spring training, I was on the call for that. Elmer Rodriguez started that game. And that dude's got some movement. It looked like he has good stuff. And one thing that I've noticed with Yankees pitching is that they develop guys that can help them pretty quickly. And it's a name that you didn't hear of, but now Elmer's on this list. to keep an eye on. But Zach, the name that I think it's their highest prospect on that list, but it is George Lombard Jr., who I don't know if he will impact this team this year, but I'll tell you what, he is a guy that they love. He's a very athletic guy that can play the middle of the field, middle of the infield specifically, and they love him over there. I think it'd be hard to see him get moved, but they do love George Lombard. And as we've noticed, the Yankees have a little bit of a shortstop crisis of what they want to do. So it's just ideas to throw around there of what could possibly happen. Red Sox, Zach, Peyton Toll, great stuff. Lefty, upsides there. You know, that's another piece for the Red Sox that I really like. And then you can't sleep on early too. I guess I forgot another lefty. So two lefties with upside. And one thing I guess that I'll say in this list so far, Zach, of the teams I just mentioned, one thing that's different from them to the Orioles. Exactly. And that is a huge emphasis, and that's been one of the question marks for this Orioles organization here as far as prospects are concerned over the last, 5 to 7 years.
Yeah. And I mean, I said 17 prospects. If you take out, obviously, the Orioles, that'll be their 14 total prospects on this list, 7 of which are pitchers. So exactly half of them are pitchers. We go through teams, obviously, like Savage. Yes, having a guy that can be a star down the line is nice, but you also see the early returns on guys. I mean, Trey Savage was one of the stars of the postseason last year. It is one of those things where the Blue Jays didn't have to make, we always talk about with the Orioles, okay, who are they going to get the deadline? Okay, you try to make it to the deadline, you find a pitcher that you need, and you go that way. A lot of teams, including the Blue Jays last year, they're like, okay, we need somebody. We need a pitcher to step up. Let's see what this young kid, one of our top prospects, can do. And he was incredible. Obviously Peyton Toll and Early, they're going to be guys that are impacting this team immediately. Even Carlos LaGrange for the Yankees. I mean, that is a guy who not that it's as uncommon these days, but a guy that can hit triple digits, big strikeout guy. I mean, there are a lot of talented pitchers coming up in this system. And, like you pointed out with the Rays, they only have one guy, Brady Hopkins, here on the top 100 list. The Rays can take pitchers, and I'm sure by the end of this season, we're going to look back at the top 100 and who the Rays have, and there'll probably be 2 more pitchers on there. Just the way they develop pitching and how they get the most out of guys, you never have to worry about the Rays with pitching. They're going to find ways to get guys out there, get the most out of them. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the Rays add 2 or 3 guys to the top 100 pitching this season. But it's one of those things that feels like with the Orioles, it's okay, a lot of outfield depth, a lot of infield depth, and even catching depth with Basayo. Obviously, Bodine they got rid of in the offseason in the Boz trade, so you kind of stopped that influx of catching top prospects there. But it makes me think about a guy like Franklin Arias for the Red Sox. Do the Red Sox have, if everyone starts to pan out and everything, maybe you have a little bit more room because you didn't bring Bregman back? But I don't necessarily think the Red Sox need more infielders. So is that a guy who can be traded at the deadline? Stuff like that, where I think they would be more okay giving him up than maybe one of the pitchers that they're hoping can take that step in the back half of their rotation, maybe as a bullpen guy early on. Having your system work for you is what is probably the biggest advantage. It's why the Dodgers, people, yes, you can talk about the Dodgers. Oh, they just spend money. Oh, they just do this. They just buy all their talent. Yes, they buy a lot of talent. They also have such a ridiculous influx of top prospects every year because they get the most out of guys. They find talent. And it's not just, they're drafting and stuff. If the Dodgers trade for one of your prospects, it's probably an issue because they see something in him and they think they're going to get something out of him. And most of the time they do. All these trades that they make every year where they're like, How did the Dodgers get this guy at the deadline? What do you mean the Dodgers are in on Skubal? They weren't just in on Skubal because they could pay him the most money. It's because they had enough top talent prospect-wise where the Tigers were like, yeah, that would line up. Yeah, you have enough where we could get the job done. That's why, yes, the Dodgers spend so much money. But the Dodgers are also probably the most well-run top-to-bottom organization in baseball because even before they, had the Shoheis, the Mookie Betts, the Freddie Freeman, before they brought in Kyle Tucker, all that, they still were competing year after year simply off of the prospects and their farm system.
Farm system is going to dictate a lot. No matter how much you spend, your depth gets tested. And for the Dodgers, we mentioned in the past, 15 starting pitchers last year for that team. Yes, the big names help them get there once they were in the postseason, but they don't win the division if their depth doesn't come through consistently to get them to a position here. And that's going to be the name of the game. And at least in Baltimore, the depth in the pitching side has been tested and it hasn't passed the test so far, Zach. So that's why there's a lot of names in this Orioles system here that I am really excited about from a pitching side. I am. But when we're looking at that whole group and what they've already done, and again, go to that top name and Trey Savage, you saw what he's capable of because he did it at the biggest stage in the World Series as a rookie who's barely pitched anything. Now, he's going to have to continue to prove it, but let's just put it this way. No one through the Orioles has come and done that. The closest thing that the Orioles had to a prospect like that for pitching is no longer with the organization. He's out there with the Angels and Grayson Rodriguez. So this is the part here that people are going to have to understand where it is. Now, there's a lot to like, though. And one thing to close out for the Rays, Carson Williams is their shortstop that's got a cup of tea in the big leagues last year. Young, talented, had 23 jacks in the minors, but had his struggles in 30-some games last year. He's going to get more run. But like we've said, the Rays have a track record with their system of putting guys there. Now, Zach, I did get a photo of the top 10 for the Orioles that I will – oh, you have it right there?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got a photo of the top 10 right there. Great job, Zach.
Thanks. I try.
So we all know about Sammy Basayo up top. And, I mean, Zach, I think his abdomen's okay. He was just smoking balls left and right, and he looks ready to get the season going, get his rookie campaign started, and off and running. Dylan Beavers, we've talked about him in the past. There's nothing for me, Zach, with the two guys there that's going to change any opinion of me with them in spring training. Just not. Yeah. But I'm glad to see Sammy's healthy and feels good. That's one. I'd say of this list, and we see Nate George, Luis De Leon, Trey Gibson, who was really great to start, got a little roughed up in his other outing, but that would probably be the closest name, Zach, to help this team this upcoming year as far as a prospect level. Yeah. And he still might need some seasoning, but I do like a lot of Trey Gibson's makeup there, and you can see why he's risen the ranks and why people are very high on him. He has a multitude of pitches. He understands how to work those pitches. Now it is, can you figure out how to get the top end hitters out as you continue to progress you're way up the ranks?
Yeah, and I mean, Trey Gibson, he might be one of those guys. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever truly know what happened at Liberty and all of that, but him falling out of the draft, everything, Orioles pick him up and just hits the ground running. I'll say this, when he pitched, and I don't know if you'll agree with me or if you see it as well, like I do, there was just something about him when he's on the mound. He gives me Kyle Bradish vibes. He knows what he's doing out there. His stuff speaks for itself. Like you said, roughed up in his second outing, although it is funny, Brad Brock talked about it. He's like, you hit a pop-up to left field in Sarasota, and all of a sudden it's 15 rows deep. It's exactly what happened to him. Guy gets 3-run homer on a pop-up that found its way out, and actually Heston Kjerstad was going to rob the home run, hit his glove, but unfortunately bumped into a fan, and it's spring training. They're just like, whatever, it's a home run. Go, trot around. We're not going to review anything, which they, it's obviously correct. But I'm extremely excited for Trey Gibson. We'll see what De Leon, lefty, is able to do as well. And then you kind of look down Esteban Mejia, 2029. You're looking at him, obviously an extremely young kid at 18 years old, so not that he's going to come up anytime soon. But once again, that's going to do it for your pitching in Baltimore. Now, when you go to the 10 to 20s, it's a lot of guys they acquired last year at the deadline, so a lot more pitching there. But there's some guys, at number 6 and number 7, Ike Irish and Wahiwa Eloy, 2 guys that you drafted in the first round, and then your comp pick. But those are 2 guys that the bat's going to play. When you look at the Orioles' depth in the system, they've got a lot of really good bats. There are some questions about where a guy's going to play. With Eloy, can you cut out on the strikeouts? If he can cut out on strikeouts, and I'll talk about that, same with like a Vance Honeycutt, they can cut out on strikeouts. The bat's there. The power's there. The fielding is there. So it's things like that. Ike Irish, he's an outfielder, or maybe first base. I see they have first base here as well. I think his catching days are well behind him. Just from what the Orioles, it seems like how they're kind of going about it. The Orioles have a lot of bats, and that's the thing. It's a lot of bats that it's not just power. You look at obviously Basayo, you think power, but then Dylan Beavers, that is just find a way to put the ball in play. Kind of similar with Nate George. He wants to put the ball in play and let his speed do the talking. Ike Irish will spray it all over the field. Eloy has some more power. Estrada has really caught people's attention this spring training. And then we know Enrique Bradfield Jr., that glove, that speed, that defense, you could plug him in right now and he's going to be one of the best defenders in baseball. You hope that the bat can kind of catch up a little bit, but 1 through 10 right now, I mean, there is a lot of talent in Baltimore, and it's all relatively close in the next, year or two.
Yeah. And I would say with Eloy and Irish, right? Those guys can move quickly now. Irish was considered probably one of, if not the best college bat. There's some bias towards that. So if that bat plays, he's going to move probably the quickest of those guys that's down there. And then, Nate George, love his upside. Some people say he's the best Orioles outfield prospect in the organization. That's how some people view him, but he's still unproven. He's so young, but a lot to like. But, De Leon and Gibson, they could make impact, Zach. I still think Gibson would be the first one because of where he is in AAA.
Yeah.
But other names that are off the prospect list then that could – I'm looking at a lot of what Chase McDermott's doing. I love his fluidness, how simple his delivery looks, the effort of his fastball coming out of his hand, and that can help set up his next pitches. But overall, there are good pieces, but the reality on the unfortunate part for the Orioles pitching staff for their developed talent is they haven't seen enough of that success at the big league level.
Yeah.
And that's why they traded for Shane Baz, the upside, but coming from the Rays, that's what they felt. Kyle Bradish, who developed in the Orioles system, but got traded over in the Bundy deal, and he's developed and established himself into that. But a guy coming from straight system up to the big leagues for the Orioles, hasn't been a lot of that success yet. So a lot of great options. I still don't know where it all will fit for the short term, Zach. I think that's why they added more depth, and that's why you have 6 to 7 starters as options, plus long relief guys in the pen. So a lot of good things to like here. And I'm excited to see how it's all going to unfold. And I hate the fact that we're going to have injuries, but that's just the nature of the game. So people are going to get an opportunity, which Zach kind of leads me into this. And you brought this up in the pre-show meeting.
Yeah.
This guy is no longer a prospect, and I don't know where he fits in yet. But will he be called upon as the season goes on? I think so, and that's Heston Kjerstad, man, because you were bringing it up. Heston's swinging it is probably good as anybody in camp, and yet no one's talking about him as much because of everything that's transpired over the last year and a half.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing. We talked about it before. Heston Kjerstad is not it hasn't been his play that has plagued him at the major league level. I mean, unfortunately, it is the most untimely injuries, untimely situations that have unfortunately bit him. I mean, I think people forget. Everyone talks about, getting hit in the head and everything that transpired after that. He was coming into his own so much right before that happened. I mean, he was on like a 3-game hitting streak. He was spraying the ball all over the field. He finally got confidence again. I mean, that is a guy, when healthy, that bat plays. I mean, we've seen it now for over 2.5 years in his small chances in Baltimore. That bat, I mean, he can hit with the best of them. That's why he flew through the system in his healthy years. I think the biggest thing for him, it is health. It's getting past everything. If he is healthy, I do not think he starts in the majors. I just, even if he hits 1,000 in spring training, I think you put him in AAA just because you want to get his feet back under him still and all of that. But Ryan, like you said, there are going to be injuries. And I think if they need an outfield bat, if they need someone that they can plug in and they know that is going to get, have meaningful at bats and actually produce, Heston's going to be one of the first people to get the call. And he's a guy that you should trust. I just really hope for him, above all, it's a healthy season. Because if it's a healthy season, I mean, let's take out last year where he batted, I think it was like 150 across 27 games in the minors. I mean, you could just tell there it was an issue because every other level, every year, the lowest he hit was 300. So, I mean, the bat, this isn't just a power bat. I think that's what people forget with Heston Kjerstad. You see the long 470-foot homers. You see him, could he hit the warehouse? You have all of those questions, and you're like, oh, this is a power bat. Yes, he has incredible power. But Heston Kjerstad, when he's at his best, he'll hit 310 in the minors. He can hopefully come up to the major leagues and he's hitting 280, 285. So he's, I feel like there's a lot of X factors on the Orioles this year just because so many guys kind of had down 2025s. But he's a guy, if he's healthy, he gets an opportunity, he's going to make the most of it. And I truly believe that.
I 1,000% believe that, and the thing that I want to point out when you bring up guys and you got to look at their track record, there's a certain point where prospects can be suspects, right? Yeah. And you're going to have to find that out of who is what and what they're capable of. But when they get to a certain point, you got to ask yourself, is it because they physically can't handle it, or there's other situations ongoing that are impacting his level of play at that level? And so for Heston's case, there was a lot more going into this than just physically going out to play. And there was some physical issues that he was dealing with, but then there's the mental side and other parts that people don't know about. And, we'll take it to another outfield prospect since he went and balled out last year, Kyle Stowers. And Stowie, for those that don't know, again, was my former teammate in 21. He skyrocketed through the system, got to AAA, still was just great dude, great mindset, but you could see the talent. But then over time in Baltimore, you could tell he wasn't prioritized and he was losing confidence, and then he dealt with some injuries. And so that combination, then you're sitting there going, can Kyle Stowers not play at the big league level? Or is it just we have to prioritize other people? But for Stowie, he's sitting there going, I think I can do it. But now I'm having a little bit of the mind games of what I have to do to prove that. And I think Heston, despite everything that he's dealt with, is still dealing with that process because, Zach, people are quick to forget what he did for that stretch run before getting drilled in the head. Yeah. And then the part after it, trying to get comfortable and then being on a team that was underperforming at such a high rate early on, and you're dealing with things, it's really challenging. So that goes back to it. Can he do this? And the answer to me is yes, he can do this. He can be a big player, especially with the bat in the big leagues. But another thing that can't go under the radar here, in my opinion, is instilling confidence in the players and making them feel that they can go out and achieve that. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, Zach, because what happened a few days ago in the spring training game, Albie, played a little prank on Kobe Mayo.
Yep.
So they said Kobe was going to go to first, and instead Kobe gets put at shortstop. And they're laughing because why would Kobe play short? Gunner's getting ready for the World Baseball Classic, so he went to third. But the whole part of what we heard about Kobe Mayo is defense ain't there. It's going to be a liability. And you know what that's in doing? That is promoting a negative thought about your player. And what Albie's trying to do is let's make this light, and we're instilling the confidence of go out and be you.
Yeah.
And if you can look at what Kobe Mayo can do instead of what he can't do,
yeah,
he's going to get better at the things that people think that he struggles with. It's a mindset thing. And I think that Kobe and Heston fall really into that category for it is don't put them in a box to what you think they're going to be.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Think about this lens. Well, what if they actually have that confidence and they get better at the thing that you question? And if they do that, then ask yourself, will they be big leaguers and can they be really good ones? And again, that's a check mark for me. I think it's a yes and a yes. So I think that people have to look at it that way. And it's not being a homer here, Zach. Just look around for talent. You mentioned the Dodgers. Why do teams latch on at other places and have success? Is because their environment creates a space for them to thrive. And so it's going to be determined with Mayo and Heston. But I do believe with the right environment, those two guys can be big players, especially here in Baltimore.
Yeah, and, kind of what you just talked about. I love that move with Alvarez and Mayo because all Kobe Mayo has been doing all spring is, okay, Westberg's done. Like you said, he hears the noise about his defense. So he's going out there. He is putting everything into playing defense. He is going out there. He's getting early work. He's staying late to get work in. During the games, the emphasis is, okay, how is he going to perform defensively? And that's something where you get so locked in to thinking, okay, I have to be perfect at third. I have to be perfect at third. I have to, I can't make a mistake. I have to be perfect at third. All this. And for Albie to send him out to a position, I would love to ask Kobe the last time, probably Little League, that he played shortstop. And for Albie to just kind of look at him and be like, and I think Kobe even said, like, he literally looked at him, scrutinized, like, just go have fun. Like, no one cares if you make a mistake at shortstop. You will not probably be playing there ever in the major leagues. Go have fun because baseball's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be loose. It's supposed to be out there and you're playing a game. So I think it's little things like that where you're really also just going to see a shift in mindset and energy around the team. If they're having fun, I mean, people talk about that 2023 Orioles team, and overcoming all the things that they did and all that. They just had so much fun. Like, you look back to last year, and Ryan O'Hearn has talked about it before with us as well. And he's like, we just got so far back that you just felt like you were trying to scratch and claw every chance you could to get out of it. And it just felt bigger and bigger as the days went on. And then that's what you're focused on. When you're having fun, that's when these guys are playing their best.
And it's with everything in life, right? When you do something.
Yeah.
And I'm going to answer this next question because I see it down there about opportunities for players because I think it's a good conversation. But in everything in life, okay, when you do something, is it easier to do it when you feel good and you're happy? Is it easier to get the job done when you have confidence? You just walk up, you do it, and it's effortless. It doesn't seem like it's added pressure because you're in that moment and you're not thinking about anything else except doing this one thing. And typically that is your mood. You're happy. And when they say, oh, discipline is doing it when you don't want to do it, it's the same thing in all professional sports for players when shit gets tough. And you are losing constantly. You're in an 0 for 30, 0 for 40. There is rumors about your career on the line. And then on top of it, it's all the outside noise plus what you're dealing with internally of going, what is going on with me? How do I get right? You have 1,000 thoughts running through your head. That's what I want to try for people out there. It's the same thing in the real world as it is in the pro world. Except the only thing in the professional sports world or the sports world in general, at a higher level, that's your job. You got to get through it. And that's why the guys that get paid the most they get through it the best. And it's not always the most talented that get through it. It's the ones that know how to get over their obstacles the best. So in this case, when I look at some of the best talent in the world, Ohtani and Judge, unbelievable talent, but they are also unbelievable at adjustments when things are good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah.
You can look at other guys that have taken the long road to do it. I'll use one of my, we'll just use Ryan O'Hearn for an example, Zach. Ryan O'Hearn failed in Kansas City for his level, that he got DFA'd. And then he had to reinvent himself. And you can ask Ryan, was that because he physically couldn't do it? Or did he have to mentally find a way to get by when things got bad? Because my biggest difference of talking to Ryan O'Hearn, and you know what, Zach, we should find the conversation of hitting philosophy, because you can tell how he handles his at-bats drastically seems different what he learned in Baltimore than when he maybe learned when he was in Kansas City fighting for a roster spot. So I think it's a mind game. And I hope that people understand that more and more. Guys are physically talented. Like if I could show you some guys that never made it.
Yeah.
And you would go, damn, that dude is going to be the next big thing. There's a lot of people that thought that.
Yeah.
Didn't make the mental adjustments at all.
Especially in a game like baseball, where if you fail 70% of the time, you're doing something well. I mean, that's the toughest part.
Yeah. And here's one thing I see. I want to answer this question. Why do some players get more of a chance than others? I think this is a good conversation piece. You know, the reality of that is people get other chances because you have to prioritize. And teams, you hope that they're right, and they hope they're right. But at some point, you have to give chances more to people. So when you look at the draft and you draft a first rounder or second rounder and you invest millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars in a player, Zach, you're invested to give them more chances, right? You are expecting it because you have a monetary value in those players, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep. The next part is you go up and say they're similar in value, but now you're looking at what's the upside potential here. Who do we like internally? And that's what happened between Kyle Stowers. They had Heston, they had Cowser, blanking on who else was in this mix. But what happened was, right or wrong, and of course, look at Stowie, what he's doing, but they had to make a choice.
Yeah.
And this isn't the Orioles situation, by the way. This is a lot of teams have to do this. It doesn't mean you're right or you're wrong. You're going to be right and wrong.
Yeah.
And in this case, they prioritized the other guys, and they decided to move on from Stowers. And now Trevor Rogers, I'll tell you what, I mean, it looks like that could be dynamite for how this could be for a pitching standpoint, but you make a choice. Another name that comes to mind, Zach, they made a choice between Joey Ortiz and Jordan Westburg in the trade.
Yeah.
It was one or the other. And they said, we're prioritizing Westburg because we think his upside is an all-star.
Yeah.
And while they love Joey, they were willing to part with him because of what they believed in Westy, right? Prioritizing. That's how it works. And for some of these younger prospects, if you just come on the scene like Nate George did, or even Trey Gibson, the team is so grateful that happens. And then they have different problems to work with. But that's what happens here. And every team does it. So I want to emphasize that. That's not a Baltimore Orioles thing. That's a Major League Baseball thing. Each organization prioritizes guys, and they hope that they're right, but over time, they're not always going to be. That's just the reality.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, I think sometimes it also gets, can be a benefit for a guy like Nate George or Trey Gibson, where you come out of nowhere and suddenly it's, okay, well, let's see what we got in this guy. Like, okay, Nate George shows up and he's now playing better than some of the first-round picks. He's playing better, and it's just like, okay, and you put him to the next level. He proved he can do it there too. Okay, now we're moving him up again. And it's not because, we don't trust the other people there. It's if you got someone who's doing that, diamonds in the rough happen all the time. So you might as well see what you have. I think that's the other aspect of it is some guys, you also just like, I'll say it, like there is bias. I think there is times where a guy like Heston Kjerstad, we've been seeing what he can do for years. We've been seeing, if this was a guy who struggled with health and everything, but he batted 250 with 15 homers in, double A, triple A, single A, that's who he was. He's probably not getting these opportunities. But every time he's healthy, he's showing, hey, I can do this. So now you're just banking on health. And I think that's the other aspect is when you prove that you can do something, you're going to continue to get opportunities over maybe a guy with higher upside, at least, quote unquote potential, who isn't showing it. If you have proven when I'm on the field, I get the job done, you're going to get more opportunities than a guy that maybe you're looking just at the tools and you're going, oh, he could be this. If he doesn't show it, you're not going to get as many opportunities as someone who maybe hasn't put it all together at the major league level, but he's proven in spurts, hey, when freak things aren't happening to me, the bat plays.
The bat plays, and some guys just have to wait their turn to see what they can do. And other names, like that's why for relievers, they can say that they're failed starters for some. But, the funny thing with Felix Bautista was stuck in A-ball for 6-7 years and released during that process, released by the Marlins, picked up by the Orioles. And for Felix, he couldn't put it all together. And then what happens? He puts it together. He rises quickly and whammy, he becomes one of the best closers in baseball. And there are stories like that. You have to look at who's your upside guys, who's your priority plus high pick guys that you need to play. And then who are some guys that you're going to follow as prospects, but you're not sure if they're going to be a prospect or suspect. And so that's what it is, of that in the storyline. And I see this I don't know about Bautista's future. Well, now, because of how he was used, that's a whole different story. But him coming up through the minors and how he ascended was because he put it together. Why he got hurt, that is a whole different discussion than we can talk about for a while here. But we're not going to dive into that one just today. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. A lot of ball talk here, Ryan Ripken Show. Do this live usually Monday through Friday, but hang with us for these weeks. We're trying to upgrade the show. We have some things in the work, but when we get ready for opening day, we're going to be humming on all cylinders, and it should be a great and fantastic year. Zach, I think that covers a lot of the baseball stuff. Do we really, just before we wrap up everything, any other little news and notes we want to touch on?
Some things are happening across the National Football League. Earlier today, the two-headed monster of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery is over as the Texans are acquiring David Montgomery for a 7th-round pick, a 4th-round pick, and offensive lineman Juice Scruggs. Honestly, Jahmyr Gibbs has to be the number 1 pick in fantasy, right? I mean, if he's got the entire – that's what I took away from this, is like Jahmyr Gibbs in fantasy is now suddenly – but, we have this. We have, before, just kind of going through everything, Khalil Mack will play next year at the age of 35, coming off a strong season. Instead of retiring, he's exploring all options and will be a big-time target in free agency. Solely bring this up because, who was his defensive coordinator the past 2 years? Jesse Minter, who is now the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. Eric DeCosta and them, they love getting veteran pass rushers. Jesse, I feel like Khalil Mack has been connected to Baltimore a million times. It makes the most sense now because you have Jesse Minter, someone he knows, is familiar with his system. Wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens at least are one of the top suitors for Khalil Mack. And then, speaking of the Ravens and edge rushers, Chad Johnson, Crosby to Ravens or Cowboys. I'll be the downer here. I just don't think the Ravens have what it takes. Like, I just don't think they're going to be comfortable giving up what it's going to take to get Crosby. As much as I think it's like, oh, send him a first and a second, whatever it is. I know how the Ravens value draft picks. We know how Eric DeCosta values draft picks. I just find it very hard to think that the Ravens are going to go out there and give up extremely valuable draft pick, top of the line draft picks for Maxx Crosby, despite how good he is. Cowboys, though, that makes some sense. They still got some extra picks from the Micah Parsons trade. So maybe they end up with their premier edge rusher anyway.
Could be. You got those draft picks, and there's some options with Crosby. I'll tell you what, I know in Baltimore, a lot of people would love a premier pass rusher like that. Who wouldn't want Mad Max? Dude, he's a beast. High energy, always going after the quarterback. And obviously there's been frustration in Vegas. So if he wants to go elsewhere, then explore some of the best options elsewhere. And if he wants to win, I'm sure Dallas has some pieces, but if you want to win, and Baltimore was willing to offer the price, there's a great chance there. But we're not going to speculate because this is it, right? The debt or the free agency tampering period starts next week. The Ravens are still trying to figure out if they can retain Tyler Linderbaum. And if they don't, the Ravens long snapper said he might not play anymore. So there's a lot of issues here that we got to address. So hopefully, priority, it seems like, see if they can get Linderbaum. See maybe who's out there that they could look at. You're right, though, Zach. I'm with you. Khalil Mack seems like a, hey, veteran guy. We like you. You know what to do. You want to chase a ring. We think it's the right spot here. And you already have a connection to a defensive coordinator that you really enjoyed playing under. So there's a lot of alignment there, Zach. But again, it's speculation. And this is the whole part of this, era of the 2026 sport landscape where we don't know. And honestly, you guys don't know. I don't like to mess around on what could happen. It's not my favorite thing to do. But I wouldn't mind seeing a nice move or two. I wouldn't. I would not at all. I would not.
No. A million different offensive linemen have just been released over the past 24 hours, it feels like. So options out there for the Ravens, that's for sure. Big off season coming up. So should be fun.
Should be fun. And also to close out the David Montgomery talk, as a David Montgomery Dynasty Fantasy Football guy, I have him on the squad.
It's big.
Kind of loving it. Also makes you think that Joe Mixon's just done there.
Has to be.
Has to be if that's going to be the move.
Yeah.
And Monty, high character guy, workhorse as well. Like he doesn't want to come in and he gets traded. He doesn't have a choice, but it doesn't feel like he's going to come in to be a sidekick, in a deal. I think he's ready to push the Texans forward, and they need that leadership there, especially with Mixon was out. So that's that. Before we leave this stream, we got to go to the other stream, Zach. Bam.
Wow.
Our friends over at AutoStream Car Care Center. We appreciate them. They got 10 locations throughout Maryland. And once again, with all this stinking weather, is it still snowing outside, Zach? Maybe?
Yeah, it's still snowing.
Awesome.
Of course it is.
Well, if you are having car issues with all this weather, go to AutoStream, mention my name, Ryan Ripken, and you get $50 off any service. Any. Sounds like a good deal to me, and I might need to go get one of those services because this weather definitely has not been great for my car. But appreciate AutoStream Car Care Center. From that stream, now back to this stream. We appreciate you guys. For tomorrow, we're going to see on how we're going to do the show. But I will say there is a special guest that we were supposed to interview before this show that we will be interviewing tomorrow. And let's just say he doesn't do many interviews, especially exclusive ones. So I think our audience is going to be very interested to see what this guest has to say, especially as it comes to baseball and maybe the Baltimore Orioles here. So,
yeah, definitely excited to see his perspective on some things.
Yeah, buddy. Anything else, Zach?
No, I think that's good, dude. Obviously a little downtime for us, but we want to keep the content rolling. So thanks for sticking with us.
Go team.
Let's do
Music. Is the music playing?
No, but
Okay.
down, bow.
As always, here on the Ryan Ripken Show, we appreciate each and every one of you. Have a day, have a night, and come back and check in on us tomorrow here on the Ryan Ripken Show, live on YouTube, X, and Facebook. Peace.